Good morning, everyone. It's Mary Wright. I want to welcome you to this special Ignite session, sparking a great career in finding seller leads. I want to start off by saying I have a goal myself today, and my goal is to give you all a solid foundation in your real estate career on how to generate seller and buyer leads. That is my goal. And this is an interactive class. And please, if you have questions, please stop me or say, hey, I've got a question, and we will discuss it. I'll tell you a little bit quick about myself. I have 20 years plus in the real estate business. I'm a 14-time Bowles graduate. I am a former broker owner of a real estate franchise. I had a franchise, and the former director of the Sales Advisory Committee of REMAX of Northern Illinois. So within my 20 years, that's what I've accomplished. But the reality is all of that was really done my first 5 years, owning an office, being the director, and later part is the classes that I took. What we want to start out with is the success. What is the successful real estate agent? And what do we do as successful real estate agents? There's no secret to this. We have models on how to grow your business and how to run your business. And these are very, very important things to incorporate into your schedule. Every day, your schedule should show on how you grow your business. Lead generate for buyers and sellers. Now, I don't know if you can see, I'm still old fashioned. I still have a paper calendar, and it's blocked off till noon every day. That's my lead generation time. I'm taking time out for you guys today, but generally my phone is off and I am contacting buyers and sellers either through my database, through expireds and FSBOs. Growing my business includes seller listing presentations and getting listings. Actually, we don't get listings, we earn them. And in order to earn them, we have to be on
I like
top
that.
of our game. We make buyer presentations and we have them sign buyer agency agreements and preview real estate. Is there anybody on the call that has not listed a property yet, that you're a new agent?
Yes, me.
Oh, awesome. And you are?
Vanessa.
Vanessa. Vanessa, what I would say to you, the last one for preview real estate is really important. And actually, it's important to all of us, especially some of us who are wanting to get into a luxury home division or understanding homes. When you preview real estate, this is what I would tell you to do and what I've taught some of the agents to do. Always preview real estate at a broker's tour. So take a look at the broker tours and properties, different types of properties, ranches, bungalows, colonials, 2-stories, and go out to the broker's tour. And what you will do when you get to the broker's tour, and it doesn't have to be, it could be in Naperville, Lake Forest, you want to learn about the business, you want to learn about the homes and the type of things in the homes. So when you preview that real estate, you go to the broker's tour and you walk in and you have the printout to the property and you say, hi, Marla, this is Mary with Keller Williams. You know, I noticed your property's on broker's tour today, and I just happen to have a buyer that's in this price point. And it doesn't matter what price point it is. You just tell them, you know, I have a buyer in this price point. Well, that agent's ears are going to perk up. Say, could you give me some of the highlights? They will generally walk you through the property and point out the flooring. And you could say, gee, is that wood? Is that laminate? Is that, you know, what kind of floor? And you will learn from them what that is. You would walk into the kitchen, they'd point out the cabinets, and you would say, oh, is that this style or that style? And the countertops, is that granite? Is it corian? Let me tell you, that will teach you on when you go on a listing presentation and you see other homes that you can identify that this is oak, this is birch, this is cherry, this is maple, this is corian. You can look at the backsplashes, you can look at the windows. Is it a tiered ceiling, a tier ceiling? Is there recessed lighting? You know, and say, gee, why do the sellers decide to go with this kitchen and see things like that? Same thing with the bathrooms and the basements. That will build your knowledge so that when you go on a listing presentation and you walk in, you see their flooring and you see their tile and you see their kitchens, that you can identify with the value and identify what's in there. And also too, when you take a buyer through a home, when you're previewing a home with the buyer and showing it to them, and the house is 30 years old and they've never done anything to it, you can create a vision for them by saying, gee, you can put in recessed lighting, you can put backslashes, and you can put corian or granite or travertine. You can put all these things in, and you can create a vision for them because it's just not there. So again, when you do open houses and you have buyers coming through and you're doing an open house for an agent where, it needs some tender loving care, you have already a vision by when you've previewed other homes. And keep the sheet with the house with all the remarks you've made so that you can always go back and refresh your memory. And again, by telling the agent, and I know it's eventually someday you will have a person in that price point. You may not have it today, but they will get it and sell you the home. The second part of my day is running my business, marketing my seller listings. And marketing seller listings is a variety of things. You can call your sphere, you can do direct mail, you can do social marketing, you can door knock around the property, letting them know. You can go to apartment buildings. I've done that. There's a ton of them in Des Plaines, and with my card and say, got a really an affordable condo that is available, and for $150,000, your payment's only going to be around $500 a month. How much is your rent here? $2,000. So you can market your listings in a variety of ways. Second show buyers houses. That's in the afternoon and early evening is when I book appointments to show houses. Very rarely, unless I have one relocation that I have to change my schedule. The afternoon is to show buyers houses. The houses that you show them, generally people put them first on an MRED search and they pick out the houses that they like. And then after they pick them out, I will call the buyer and say, you picked out 123 Main Street. Does this fall into your criteria? Thirdly, negotiate contracts. That's very important because we want to get to closings and the money that we need to run our business and family life. Transaction management, I will tell you right now, is right up there. It's huge. You need to watch your deals. Once a deal goes under contract, you don't put the folder there and mark the closing date and then just pick it up that day. You watch each step of the way. Time is of the essence, like it says in the contract, and you need to home inspection done, mortgage contingency done. If it's a condo, do they have all the docs? You need to make sure that you're following the transaction. As you get more deals, you may decide to hire someone to do that. However, you need to watch these very, very closely. There's also vendor management. Vendor management is also very important. What that is to me is my home inspectors, my mortgage lenders, my photographers. I don't wait until I have a property before I find them a lender or find them a home inspector. I call them now and interview them, look at their brochures, see what they offer, see what radon inspectors, if we need a mold inspector, so that when we do go under contract, I have everyone in place. Setting goals. We have such a thing as the 411 and the GPS. Those will help you set your goal for the year, for the month, and for the week. If you break it down to the ridiculous and just plan your day and you win each day, you will win each week and month and year. So it's very important to know what your goal is so that you can break them down so that you can be on target. Compliance and risk management, also very, very important. Things are always changing. There's certain words that we can and cannot use in the multiple listing service. The do not call list, huge. It's not only land phones, it's also cell phones. So we need to keep abreast of what's going on as far as our industry. And attending training and getting coaching. I will tell you, training What you focus on expands. And if you plan a real estate training at least once a week, your focus is on your business. It helps you sharpen the knife in your drawer. And coaching, just like with athletes, athletes train every day. They need to keep themselves in good physical shape. We need to keep ourselves in good shape through scripts and understanding our business. Coaching keeps us on target. I don't know how many of you are on the PC coaching program or have a coach. There isn't any athlete that I know of that doesn't have a coach, that doesn't have someone check their swing or how they throw the ball, because we can't always see it. I walked out of listing presentations and said, boy, I really did great. And then all of a sudden I don't hear back from them and find out that they may have listed with someone else. So it's really important to get someone to keep you, and I have one. I've always had a coach through the years through various companies. Managing money. I will tell you, as a former broker owner, many of my agents would get a commission check and I wouldn't see them for a month or two, depending on the check. So it's very important every month to do what they call a P&L, profit and loss. It's also important when you're sitting in front of that seller and they say, cut your commission, Mary, cut your commission. And you know what your profit and loss is last month. You know how much you brought in, and then how much your dues are, how much your car payments are, how much your insurance is, how much the cost of sales, of marketing. And you know how much just sitting in front of him it costs to run your business. And there's also two ways when you manage your money. You can do it on Quicken, you can do it on paperwork, however you choose, make sure you do it. And you can always send a copy to Joe, or probably Nicole would probably be happy in doing this too. And they can take a look at it to see where you might need to trim, what areas. Dollars add up, $1 here, $5 here. They do add up, and they go into your profit, and you really need to take control of that. Is there any questions on anything that I've said? Okay, great. Next. What we'll focus on today in growing your business: lead generate for buyers and for sellers. Does anybody have any thoughts on how do you lead generate for buyers and sellers? What do you do? Okay, nobody, we don't lead generate. Who do you call? What do you do?
I call my sphere. I also call a database like Arch agents to get numbers and reach out to.
Awesome. And people can subscribe to Land Voice or to Arch, and you can get the daily expireds. You can get the daily for sale by owners. However, I will tell you, if you go into your database and you do your top 20%, that's where the dollars are. That's absolutely, I had called 2 people. I do my for sale by owners, my expireds that I call every day. I do so many. And then in my database, I hit the top 20% every month, and then everyone else every other month about. And in calling 2 people, I ended up with 4 new listings just from my top 20%. And
so Mary,
that's, pardon me?
hey, it's Tony. Can you elaborate on so you're talking about top 20% of your database?
Right. There's top 20% of the people in my database that give me business. Those are the people that I get the majority of my business from. They get a call at least every month or every other week. The rest of them that maybe you'll get 1 referral a year, 2 referrals, something like that. I call them every other month, but there should be a group of your go-to people that when you say, oh my gosh, I need to make money today, who are you going to call? You need to keep track of them and decide, you know, not decide, actually the numbers will decide for you who to call. So I called 2 of them in my database that were in my top that give me a lot of business. It's after the first of the year, and said, hey, do you have anything going on? Is there anybody I can help you with? Yeah, my daughter told me at the holidays she wants to buy, and I have a client I'm doing a mortgage for that he's buying 2 investments he wants to flip. So got 3 from him, and then another person told me they're thinking of selling, and I went on that listing appointment. So again, keeping track, knowing who your top people are, and not only calling them, sending them thank you. Every time someone gives me a referral, sending them a note, thanking them. Every holiday, I send something out, whether Valentine's Day, I'm going to send them out something from Baskin Robbins, like $5, just a gift card to go buy an ice cream. I always do something for them in the holidays. Not when they give me referrals. Obviously, we can't do that. But during the holidays and every holidays, I do. Make seller listing presentation. Oh, lead generate for buyers and sellers. Next. Next. Nope, go back. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Next. Before we get into this, I wanted to talk to you about the do not call registry. That is something very serious. You need to follow that. You need to subscribe to the registry. You need to check numbers in the registry. Now, a lot of you may get Arch or you may get Land Voiced and they've been scrubbed for you. If you just go on to whitepages.com or 411, I would check their number. And the fees, the fines are so excessive that, and agents have been hit with $11,000 fines. So make sure that you check. And even if you have someone, whether they're in your database or they came to an open house and they said at that time, yes, you can call me, and then you call them and they say, no, please don't call me anymore, they're on the do not call list, whether they're subscribed to the registry or not. Next. Understanding when you are making your calls or talking to sellers and buyers, the biggest thing you need to do is understand motivation. Understanding why they want to buy or sell real estate. That is really the most important. I'm getting over a cold, I'm sorry. The biggest thing is you need to connect with them and understand when they're thinking of buying or selling. That is the most important thing to do when you're pre-qualifying them. Do you guys all agree?
Yes.
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 That's good. Okay, good. When you're calling them and talking to them, there are such a thing as connecting questions. I think we can go to the next slide. Oh. Are we behind, or these are a little bit different than mine? Finding seller leads. Okay, you can do it, like I said, through your database, through open houses, through referrals, your daily 10-4, which you need to do. So next page.
Is the slide you were looking for, Mary, connecting questions?
Yes.
Okay. This is the order I have it in.
Thank you. Thank you, Lydia, for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
When talking to your clients, you need to get details. You need to connect with them. You need to ask them, you know, can you tell me a little bit, whether it's a for sale by owner, a buyer that comes through, can you tell me a little bit about your life, your family, your job, things like that? Is that why you're looking to move? Then you assess their wants and needs. What are you looking for? What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? Some people may want to be buying an investment or a vacation home, and then pinpoint their location. You know, where would you like to buy? Is it close to where is your home located now? If you're in your database, I hope you know where their home is, and with the expires and FSBOs you get, you will. But if they're coming in off an open house, or it's just a call coming into one of your properties, that way you need to find out. And as I am asking these questions, I photocopied them in green because they're money sheets, and I keep track of everything that they're saying. And then you get to the heart of it. You know, why are you moving? They may say job change, family, divorce, and they get a feeling for their timeline. When would you like to do this? Again, that determines whether they're an A, B, or C buyer, and that's what you really need to know too. And putting in the computer to contact them. So when would you like to do this? And they may say 30 days, 60 days, 90, 6 months, and whatever they say, cut it in half. because there's a good chance that they may say 60 days and they're really thinking of wanting to go out now. And then, you know, how do you plan to do this? Do we need to get a mortgage? Do we need to sell your home? You know, what would you need me, or how would you need me to help you with this? Find homes. Again, are there any other questions that you ask that were not on this that you find helpful? Okay, next slide. Now, these are the lead categories, and this is very important when you're putting them in Command or whatever database you have, A, B, or C. A is able, ready, and willing to do business from now until 14 days. So you actually daily follow up with them to see if they're getting the properties you're sending them, is their house ready for you to come out, if they need any help for you to come through and do a walkthrough in their house so that they can start to get their house ready. And then there's B, able, ready, and willing to do business 15 to 60 days. So they also, of course, go in your database, and then every 2 or 3 days, or at least once a week, call them to say, you know, I'm sending you properties. Did you see anything? Or there might be, if you've discussed with them how much they want to list at, there's other properties in that price range where you can preview with them and say, how does your house come to par with this? That kind of thing. So, and then C are people who, you know, 90 days, 6 months out there that they, you know, they're thinking of doing this by the summer. They're thinking of doing this by the holidays. And again, if they say 6 months or 30 days, I would cut it in half and still follow up with them to make sure, until they get in their mind that you are the agent of choice. And especially when they're farther out and they start to tell friends and family, oh, we're thinking of moving. Many of the other friends and family may say, hey, call Sheena, call Lydia, call Nicole. And you want to be the agent of choice. So you've got to keep a tight rein on them and make sure that they see you as that agent of choice. Next. We're not going to do, because of the time frame that we're in, and today is a very historical day today with what is going on with our president and new president. We're not going to do any of the role playing or anything like that. I would be happy if you'd like to do role playing in the future. If you want to set up a time with me, we can do that. Now we want to convert leads to contacts. So in order to do that, when someone calls in or you call a seller or someone in your database and they say, yeah, I'm thinking of selling, you know, 2 weeks, 3 months, 4 weeks, you got to turn it into an appointment. I know with COVID, it's difficult. I was on an appointment. She had a mask on, I had a mask on, and you ask for the appointment and set up a time that's convenient for both of you, that you can come out and take a look at the property. I like daytime hours. I think the sunlight is really great to be able to take a look at the house outside, inside. And you go ahead and book the appointment. And then you say, gee, when I'm coming out, is there anybody else you know that may be thinking of selling, buying, investing, a vacation home maybe in the near future, at work, church, or school? And they will let you know. Is there anything else you do in between? Is there anyone else that would like to add something to it? Okay. Now, as we've converted the leads to contacts, our next slide is going to talk about pre-qualifying sellers. This is really important because time is money in our business, and we need to know, we need to understand, you know, are they an A, B, and C, and we need to go deeper with them on that. We have to understand their motivation, position yourself as an expert. You have to win the listing, allow you to price the home so that it can sell, and to be able to see if the seller needs any help in getting the home ready or anything like that, and see what kind of seller expectations there are. Thank you, Lydia. As far as seller expectations, this is important because maybe they're expecting color brochures. Are they expecting a drone to fly over their home? Maybe there's want an open house every weekend. So understanding their motivation, making you the expert, you want a listing, getting them to price it right, and also what their expectations are. Has anybody ever had a seller have some crazy expectations as to what they wanted, and and ask you to, is it open house every weekend, or was there anything they wanted you to do that was unusual? Okay, maybe
Just,
something.
Mary, just overprice it, so.
Isn't
So
that
many
the truth?
times.
Isn't that the truth? I've
Yeah.
had sellers, have said, no, I've had a seller that didn't want any interior pictures. I, have sellers who have said that the most important part of their house was the kitchen, so they wanted a whole bunch of pictures of the kitchen. So to see what kind of expectations they have as far as showings too. If they have kids, is there a certain time that you can't show? Is there certain days you can't show? Is there anything that they don't want you to do as much as what they want you to do is very, very important too. We also, next slide, practice the pre-listing questionnaire. That's when you really delve deep. Again, you can get this on the command website. It's really important getting all their information, but the number one is, how did you hear about me? Because if they heard about me through someone else, I want to make sure that I thank that other person. I want to send them a thank you card. It's very important to acknowledge people when they do things like that for you. And then it goes into, and this is a record for you, is to when they're moving, when they want to be there, how soon do you have to be there? Because when they want to be there may be different than when they really need to be there. So going through this, finding out whether or not they need to sell their home or they don't need to sell their home. Or the best one is that within their motivation is, hey, we bought a house already. Oh, you did? Did you buy new construction, or did you buy an older home? Or simply because if they say, well, we bought new construction, that's going to be huge, because most builders today do not accept home sale or home close contingencies. So
I
with
want to
that,
interrupt for a second, Mary.
sure.
I just added the pre-listing questionnaire into the chat if anyone wants to download it. And you should have it as part of your Ignite toolkit. That's all.
Thank you. So it's really important to find out, did they buy something else, or does the husband have to go there? And like I mentioned, with builders today, number one, they don't want to take a home sale or home close contingency. They'll give you 90 days to sell your home, or 120, but they won't take a contingency. Two, when they buy new construction, they get a mortgage on the base, and many builders today may be asking for whatever upgrades they want, that Corian kitchen or granite or tile, they may have to pay that up front. So it's really important to know when they plan on really plan on moving. And in this market, we really don't know, and you need to find out the question, well, if we sold your house this weekend and you need to be out in 45 or 60 days, is that doable too? So try to get a real handle on what they're doing. Again, some of them may say, oh, I just want to test the market. I want to put it in at this price. You have to decide if you want to do business with them. You can talk to them about pricing. And again, generally people who come in overpriced end up getting less than what they would have when they would have come on at the fair market price. So again, the pre-listing questionnaire is really great. I keep it with me in my folder. When I go to visit them, I go through on my appointment again to make sure nothing has changed. When I go on my appointment with them, and it wasn't in the slide, but it's very important to ask, will all the decision makers be there? Because if all the decision makers are not there, then that's an issue, because you have to make sure they're on the same page. Or they may say, we're getting a divorce. That could be another story too, and how you're going to get in touch with the other party and how this is going to be handled. Is it through attorneys? So you really need to make sure all the decision makers there, or get the information on the decision makers to set up an appointment if you need to go to their place too. Okay, next slide, please. Again, because of the day, we are not going to. Now, the listing presentation, again, we have some in our office. If you go by the copier, there's some that are pre-printed. You can go ahead and take one of those, or you can customize it. And Lydia will show you now where it is on command and how to access it.
I was muted and I was talking.
Oh.
So I was having an issue with designs. I don't know if it's still happening, but let's try again and see what happens. So like Mary said, we have them at the office. Those are generic ones that anyone can use. But ideally what you would want to do is go into command designs and customize yours, because you're going to look that much more professional when you have all of your personal information in the design templates, and it's really simple to do. So when you go into designs, let me go back one more page so that hopefully that works. If not, I'll go back to the other window. We were testing it with Mary earlier and I had an issue, so trying to make sure we can show you the right way to do it. So you go to designs, which is the paintbrush in a square icon in command. And then you're going to click on the big plus sign on the lower right hand corner. And then you're going to get a box that gives you the option of email, social, print. You're going to want to choose print. Any kind of material that you're going to be printing, such as flyers, brochures, listing presentations, is under print. So you choose print and then next. And it looks like it's working. Yes. And you're going to go under either buyer. If you're looking at buyer presentation, that one's there. But what we're looking at today is listings. So under listings, we have listing presentation. So you select that, and we have 4 different options. These are mostly like, so there's different templates. So, you know, depending on the style that you prefer, the inside is pretty much similar. It's just the template that changes, but the information is all the same. So for example, when you do want to use it, you can click on use. And the great thing is, if you set it up the very first time, like my advice would be go and set everything up with your information in it first. And then you can just keep making a copy of that first one that you customize. So you don't have to go and do this all the time. You're just going to go in and change it for each individual client, because there is a page where you add like the client name. So here on the left hand side, we have the template pages, and you don't have to use all the pages. You can see if you want to add it to your presentation, you click on the plus sign. And there is even an instruction page. So everything I'm saying here and what is suggested for you to do is listed here in the instruction page. So I wouldn't recommend adding the instruction page, but if you just want to view it, and then when you finalize the document, then you can omit that page, because the first 2 pages are just like space holders. This would be the actual first page that you would bring to your client when you're presenting to them. So this is the page that I'm saying you can customize, put your information down here, you change your picture here, you make sure our office logo is on here. There's smaller text here that has our address, so you can edit that. You can customize each time you have a listing presentation. You could put Here it says a custom consultation exclusively for, and then write in their name. So every time you have a new listing presentation, go in and change this. And changing pictures out is really simple. So for example, here we've got first name, last name, and then this is a space holder picture. So I'm going to go to my images. I have my photo uploaded in my marketing profile, so it comes up here automatically. So I'm going to put my picture here. I'm going to click and drag and drop it so that my mouse hovers over where that picture is. And there it goes. Now my picture is replaced here. For text, you double click and then you get the little cursor that's blinking here. And now I can just erase the information here and type in my name. So you want to go through every page or of the template and make sure that if there is any place that has information that you want to change or update, because not every page will require for you to edit something, but just read through carefully. You don't want to print it and send it off with nothing in it. There's even spots where you can add in you could add in the subject property. So like got the information from when their last home sold if possible, and write this in here. If you have a picture of their home from the MLS from before, you can add it. If there isn't one, you could leave a generic picture here as well. All of this information here you could change. So you're gonna look like, okay, you've done a little bit of research on the property beforehand as well, which you should if you're going to a listing presentation and the address. There's even market snapshots that are easy to replace within it in here. So for this, I will touch on that a bit. So we would say what's happening in Park Ridge, if that's the neighborhood it's in. Here is this market snap with this average list price and all of that. So how do we change all of this? If you go to KWLS on the left-hand side, we have listings. So we could search for listings here, but we want snapshots. So we click on snapshots, and then we're going to write in a neighborhood name. So let's just use Park Ridge. That's fine. So neighborhood name, or you could use postal code. I would say postal code would be more exact. Let's use 668 for Park Ridge. Make sure you choose search by postal code. And then we're going to get some results coming up in a little bit for this zip code. And then we're going to have this kind of market snapshot in different sizes. There we go. So depending on which one it is, you just select the image here and you hover over here and you're going to get a replace image button. And there we go. So now we've got the stats for this zip code. All right. So there's blank information here too, or generic information that you can update yourself as well. So you get the idea. You can add comparables, and then there's a list of your needs, and then there's a list for the process. So remember, again, as you're going, add the pages that you want. I'm not going to add them all right now just because this is an example, but pretend I did. And then there's even a list here that says the process. So this is what's going to show your client what the process is. So if you have any additional things that you do with your listing process, edit this page and add in yours. Or maybe you could get some additional ideas for what you might want to do for the listing process. And if you haven't done a listing appointment yet, this is a pretty good idea of seeing, okay, this is what happens when you're listing a property. So all super helpful information. All like the heaviest work has been done for you. So I've gone through several pages now that I would not need to customize. There's a page about your marketing plan, information about finding your buyer. Again, these pages probably don't need me to edit anything. You could leave these as is. So you go through, I think there's about 27 pages. So you can see several different things about the process, what goes into it. And then there's a page that's kind of like your resume of what your real estate transactions are. And some of you might not have the numbers that show here because maybe you're starting out. And if you do in your experience, please put them in here because it's going to also, you should be able to talk about that. And I would say that if you don't have experience and you want to still add in information, use our lore report in place here. Every month I put it out as a PDF and a JPEG. You could take the JPEG version in here, remove the square, maybe even remove this here, and you could add it into this box, add it as a box right here. So you're showing our office numbers, which are great in your presentation if you don't have numbers like these of your own. Again, there's another page that says the proof is in my numbers. You could get office stats again, put them in here as well. You could even put maybe market stats for the area. The lore report shows more than the ones that we put out. So if you have questions about it, go ahead and ask us and we can help you with that. And if you don't want to put in 2 pages about your numbers, you could just use one of them. You don't have to use both. So you could add in previous sold properties, or, all of this featured listings, maybe current listings that you have in here. There's even a spot for your reviews, so you could have several of these review pages. There's this page that talks about the promise. I know that we talk about it in bold, your promise. This is a generic one that I think that it's very nice, but you could add it, make it your own as well. There's a page about safety. There's a page that promotes your app so they can look at what is going on with the transaction, and then finally a back cover. So you can see it's a whole complete listing presentation, and you can either put it out as, actually print it physically on paper, or you can save it as a PDF and you do your presentation on your computer as well. With this pandemic going on, I had a listing presentation and I did it through Zoom. Like, I customized my listing presentation, and I went through the presentation through Zoom just by sharing my screen. So it was super easy, and I felt very cool doing it. But yeah, that's your listing presentation. So you can name it. You could say, maybe this is your listing presentation template. And then I always put whenever I updated it. And then once you're ready to download, you can click download. And then I recommend do it as a PDF. And if you're going to print it, do high resolution quality. And then you click start download and it'll download to your computer. And then once it is in your, it does auto save. So you can see here it says saved. Once you're done, it's going to live in your templates within command. So like I said earlier, if you go in here and you customize all the details in your listing presentation, and let's say, okay, I have another listing presentation for another client the next week or the next day, it's going to appear right here. You're going to click on the little 3 dots next to it, and you're going to say make a copy. So now you have an exact copy of the one that you made. And then all you have to do is go in there and change the client name and the client property. And then download it and print it, and you're good to go. So the first time you do it is probably going to take the most amount of time. But if you take that time and really make it your own, make it yours, and add your information, it's going to look great for every time moving forward. And
Thank you. Thank you, Lydia.
Yep.
This is so very, very important for two reasons. One, when you go on a listing presentation, whether it's your grandmother, your mother, your uncle, neighbor, or whomever, you always do a listing presentation. Just because they know you, that's not reason enough not to do one. So this listing presentation is important to get right. And from this listing presentation, what we want to do is pull the important parts out to do a pre-listing presentation. When we do a pre-listing presentation, whether we drop it off or email it to them, it's going to help show them that you're the best person for the job. And the materials in the listing presentation that you saw that you choose to pull out for your pre-listing, you can add more. I would suggest that office, when you receive the Agent Ladder Award or any awards you got in the office, or even any awards through the chamber, or being the #1 Girl Scout mother or whatever, I put them all in there so that they can see. And instead of me sitting there saying, you know, Shana, I was the #1 cookie sales mother and I was the #1 this, that will sell you. Many of the times they may not open it up prior to you coming, but they do have it, or if you drop it off, they can see that you're not only a realtor, that you also care about the community. You can talk about Red Day, you can take some of the articles, Red Day we've done to show that how we've helped the community, and then send that off in your listing presentation. Anytime I've been in Chicago Magazine quoted by Robert Faulkner, I've been in the Daily Herald. So all of those articles I've saved through the years, they're part of my listing presentation so that they could see that I do know my business, I do care about the community. We are not going to, next, we are not going to role play our listing presentation due to time. Now, is there any ahas that you've gotten so far regarding the pre-qualification questionnaire, pre-listing? Is there any good ahas that you realize how important this is in your business?
Mary, I just have a couple of questions. In the listing that, or Lydia too, that she just went through. So the listing process sheet, is there anything you typically add to that, or you just kind of, you suggest, I'm a new person, so you suggest I just use that and then add to it as I need, or is that pretty complete?
It is very complete and everything. What you would add to it is when you go into the multiple listing service and you add the actual, I use the multiple listing service to do the price points and to show the activity. The listing presentation glosses over my typical listing presentation. When I first sit down with the seller, before I even go into it, I say, hi, Lydia. I'm going to go through my listing presentation with you. However, there's something more important to me than my listing presentation, and I want to give you a brochure on my office. I want you to see how Keller Williams agents are so much different, and Keller Williams is so much different than other companies. And I explain Keller Williams, how it was built by agents. I go into the fact of how important it is for all our agents to sell the properties of the agents in our office with our profit share. I go through my office stats and how we're a leader in the market. We've been in 20 years in the business. We have a brick and mortar building, and it's important to us because there's a lot of internet-based businesses today. And tell them if they know of anybody looking to go into the real estate field, that Keller Williams should be their #1 choice, and to leave them the brochure before I even start the listing presentation, and to let me know if they know of anybody that's interested, because we do have licensing classes. Get into the listing presentation that glosses over how we're going to sell their home, what the process is. And then when I get to the end is to pricing their home. One of the big things that I've done through the years, and I feel after selling my own homes, is it's a personal thing. My home is a personal thing. It's what I've built, what I've designed. So when I sit with them and I have the MRED sheet with me, the multiple listing sheets, I don't just say 123 Main Street sold for 200,000 in 90 days and it closed at this date. I say, you know, Lydia, 123 Main Street, it was owned by the Johnson family and they sold it to the Smith family. I get that information through tax records. It makes it more personal. It makes it like I'm knowing what's going on in that area, even if I'm not even familiar. I'm in Naperville and I'm not familiar with the neighborhood. It personalizes it. So Mr. and Mrs. Johnson sold it to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I said, did you know the Johnsons or the Smiths or anything? Oh, okay. Well, they sold it on this date and the Smiths saw value and this is what they paid for the house. And I go through each comp that way. And of course, what is going on as far as what's in the home and things like that. But again, personalizing it. And then the pre-listing, I say, did you have a chances to kind of look it over and everything like that and see? I know that if they do look it over, then they're really, really serious and go through the listing presentation and agree on a price and move forward from there. Does anybody have any questions on that?
I had one more that you mentioned for the pre-listing presentation, you pull out the important stuff. Do you have some examples of what those would be?
Well, yes, it's like the process, the moving checklist, the process, mostly the information on myself. First page is Mary Wright's been in the business for 20 years. She's done this, and my credentials. Then to go through and see what is pertinent to them and take a look, because there's a lot of fluff in there too. But again, specifically the moving, also a questionnaire, a survey too, to see if they're willing to fill that out ahead of time. And again, those survey questions are the same the pre-qualifying questions. And once I do my listing, again, when you get to their home, the first thing I always do is say to the seller, thank you for having me in, put my stuff in the kitchen. I'd like to take a walk through your home and visualize it through the eyes of a buyer. And while I'm doing that, I give them the questionnaire, if they haven't filled it out on the pre-listing, to sit there and fill it out while I take a look at their home. And then I can come back and then sit with them. Sometimes they'll want to take a walk with me and I'll say, I really want to do this first. And then if I have questions, or we can talk about add-ons once I sit back down. And then they go through the pre-listing presentation and pricing.
Thank you so much.
Does anybody else do it a little bit different? I know we've got some really fantastic agents on this call.
I just personalize it a little bit more towards the end with, I'm a certified stager. I'd love to walk around and offer you free tips to prepare. And that typically gets them going.
Awesome. And two, you can also add in here, which I think is important, is that we're blessed to be a League of Nations in our office. I don't know how many different languages agents speak in our office. And if we get a caller, they're Polish or Russian, Spanish, or whatever, we have agents that can handle just about every type of buyer question if they don't speak English as their first language or fluently, so we can help them. And I think that's really important today too, to share in that.
Mary, one thing I could contribute, like what exactly to do on your listing presentation is when you talk to people initially, you get a feel for what they really are looking for. I've learned more by my mistakes. Like if someone is very statistical, like numbers, you go in there and you don't have that, then you kind of miss out.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you get to know the people and what they want, I think the better able you prepare the material to go in there. But I will tell you, sometimes they take you by surprise. And you know that. So,
Yeah.
a lot of times you had to wing it in there and answer questions and whatnot like that. But look, even now, if somebody asks me a question I don't know, I'll just say, oh, that's a good question. Let me get back to you on that. And then of course I do as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's what with this COVID thing and you have to wear masks, I like to smile a lot, and smiling always seems to end the tension, and it doesn't seem to work. But I agree with you. There's many times that things do come up and you just don't expect it, or they want to especially pinpoint how long is it going to take, and it's hard. You're right. If they're oriented towards the numbers, some of them may want the photography, so they catch you off guard. So as much as you can delve deep on the pre-qualifying is great, because then you'll have a really good understanding their motivation. I find if their motivation is high, then they're really not going to question me as much on my commission. Where if their motivation isn't as high, then I find that they do. And many times, if I find that with the commission issue, if I just say no, that usually works. And if I say no, and for whatever reason they say something else, then I always inject some humor into it. And I say, you know what, for every $1 I'm going to put in your pocket, I get a nickel. And that nickel I bring back to my owner of the company, Joe Morello. And in his office, he has a nickel splitter, and he splits that nickel in half, and 2.5 cents goes to me, and 2.5 cents goes to the cooperating broker. But my 2.5% doesn't go to me yet. I got to figure my marketing costs, my office split, time, and everything that goes into it. So please understand, a commission isn't just a commission. That 2.5% after everything is subtracted also feeds my family and pays my bills. And I only go into that when it's such a tug of war on that. So does anybody else use anything to help them with if they do get a commission issue?
Well, the biggest thing I see is all these agencies now offering 4%.
Mm-hmm.
And they think that extra 1% they're putting in their pocket. And so, you could have a comeback. And this is in the scripts too, that say, what I'm hearing is you want to net the most money.
Yes, yes.
And because you never say no to a person.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you explained, that 1% of what you really get. And that's where your value comes in. I've even gone
your numbers. Your numbers.
I can go so far as I was doing some research on these discount brokerages, how many days it took them, how many price reductions, how many didn't sell at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that to me is, probably proof you're not really getting that. You may not.
Mm-hmm.
So being prepared and having those answers, especially for when, let's say you're doing in displays, then you've looked up displays and, you get to know all the names of the discount brokerages, you could actually look them up and just see. Now in this market, it's hard because everyone's selling fast, but
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. That's exactly it, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. I know it's important on how much you net, and we're talking here, $2,000, and that $2,000 will separate you from getting a fantastic agent with a fantastic company and someone who has longer market times. But that $2,000 at our very low interest rates today are probably going to cost you an extra $20 a month, if that, or $25. So for less than $1 a day, Jane, isn't it better to go with an agent who's more than qualified with a fantastic company and a great marketing plan?
yeah, that does make sense. So yeah, they should agree.
Sign here. Sign here. What about any ahas or anything else that you got out of the class, or is there any ideas?
Mary, thank you. I got so many ahas. I mean, I love the pre-listing packet. Your listing checklist, I like that. I'm going to be using that more often because there's always that 1 or 2 question that I forget. I'll send an email, but I'm like, dang, I should have just asked it then and there. So, and then you can always add to it. So thank you.
I'll tell you, the king, I call him the king, Dean Moss, has the most fabulous. And if you email him, he will probably share it with you, his pre-listing package and what he sends out about him and his team. Because when you sit there and you try talking about yourself, I don't feel comfortable doing that, and I don't know how much they're listening to. So that way, if it's in a packet, and again, I know too, with the cost, we're all working out of our homes, and the cost of ink is huge. I know what I'm paying here. Many times now I'm taking my laptop and my listing presentation is saved as a PDF, and I'm just going through it with them, and then I can email it to them at a later date. Is there any other ahas? I will tell you one of the things that is very important is scripts. And I know you've taken scripts in your other classes. However, I want to strongly encourage you to make sure that you do have a script partner, that it is something you do 30 minutes a couple of times a week minimum. And by internalizing it, it's going to give you confidence when you get on the phone. And I will tell you a story about scripts that I had. I lived in downtown Des Plaines, and I would go down Northwest Highway past the train station, and there would be this huge billboard for a subdivision called Stonegate of Des Plaines. And the builder was selling 264 units back in 2007. And every time I would go past that billboard, I would call the number on there, the office, and say, "Hi, it's Mary Wright with Keller Williams. I noticed that you're selling condos. Are you looking for an agent to represent you?" And the salespeople would be nasty to me and hang up on me or say no. And every time I go past it, at least once a week, and this went on for, I want to say 4, 5, 6 months. I go past and I call them. We were already on a first name basis. And that one day when I called them, I said, "Hi, it's Mary Wright with Keller Williams. I was wondering if you're looking for an agent." They said yes, that the builder fired everyone in the sales office, that they only had sold 8 units this year, and it was already August.
Wow.
So cold calling works. I cold called, and I've had people also, they hang up on you, but yeah. And he said, can you be in his office? Here's his number, call him. I called him. He said, "Can you be in my office tomorrow?" I went to his office, and I didn't know, and I should have asked, should have pre-qualified him better. "Are you speaking to any other agents?" Of course he was. I just, with my ego, figured no, he'd only be talking to me. So here I was with at Properties and Caldwell Banker, and Caldwell Banker has a huge builders division, and they spend a lot of money along with that Properties in marketing. However, I knew the problem with his properties is they were overpriced. And I don't care what kind of money you spend marketing or how many people you call and trying to sell it, it's not priced right. It's just not going to sell. So I was blessed to be the third person in, and I got to hear everybody else's story. And went in there, and there were 6 people in there. There were investors. There was actually 20 investors in this $25 million project. And I realized by listening to the 2 before me, I didn't have the kind of money they were talking. $100,000 they were going to put in marketing. They're going to do a lot. So goes back to motivation. I went back to their motivation. These guys, they're investors. They got to get rid of this stuff. They're only concerned, how am I going to get rid of it? It's not going to be, I'm going to spend $100,000 per unit to sell your property. So I looked at all of them, and they had 100 units left to sell. They owed $14 million on the project of Parkway Bank. And I said, I know you want to get these sold. However, right now, what we need to do is it's costing you, my estimate, $33,000 a month just in interest, not even principal. So you're paying $33,000 a month interest. A condominium act requires that no matter how big the building or the subdivision is, the moment one unit is sold, the builder is required to bank the monthly assessment for each unit. So he was putting in $100,000 a month, or probably close to, he was owing like $100,000 a month between the assessments and what he was paying and the insurance. So where's this 100 grand coming from? Right now, it's not coming from profit because he's not selling units. So that means that the 20 investors and the builder keep having what they call capital calls, meaning they got to keep dumping more of their own money into it. So listening to, like I said, what the other ones were saying and how important it was to get it sold, it wasn't important to get it sold. It was important to cut the bleeding. So I said, what we're going to do is we're going to take 20 units right now and we're going to rent them at so much money and we're going to cut the bleeding. We're going to cut it so that you are not doing a capital call. It'll be 20 of the units that are the least desirable, so that if we try to sell them now, they're going to get a lower price point. We'll sell them at the end of the project and we'll put the other units on the market. But at least we can get these rented and you'd have money and you won't be bleeding anymore and it will give you some time. And that's how I won the listing, is because I cared about them, explained to them that this is more important to stop the bleeding than it is right now to get these sold. And we will get them sold. And working for a builder 7 days a week in an office from 9 to 5 was very, very hard too. So as much as it was great to get 100 listings at that time, it was very, very hard. And once I got that listing, then I started having other builders call me. I think it was up to 250 active listings. So again, think about your client, think about their motivation, put yourself in their spot. And maybe what they're saying may not be really what you're hearing. You're hearing that there really is something else going on there instead. So that was one of my stories. Does anybody else have anything to share? How has your thinking changed as far as what you thought this job was going to be, or what this career, I should say, this career is going to be, and what it really is? Do you all run your business like a business?
When looking at this slide, the one thing that this is Jim, by the way, the one thing that I have noticed is we're working every day. It's different than a job that I've had before, where it's a Monday through Friday, set hours, set times, weekends and holidays off, things of that nature. This is more, you are working almost every day. So that's something that is a little different than what I expected, or what I'm accustomed to.
I will tell you, to control your schedule, you need to become a listing agent. If you are a buyer's agent, you've got to run out there every chance you can to show whatever comes up that they may want to buy so that it's not gone the next day. I have found, Jim, that focusing on listings and with what we can do on the internet, my day is set. I work from 7 in the morning to 3. I'm done unless I may have a listing appointment here or there. I don't work on Sundays, and I get done on Saturday at 2 o'clock. And that is my schedule. So again, and a lot of my clients are retired, so I'm very blessed with that respect with condominiums. But if you look to be a listing agent and get your presentation and get your scripts, you will find you have a life where if you do with the buyer, like I said, the buyer's agents, you'll be chasing all the time. And one of the reasons I chose the condo industry early on in my career, because I had 2 children to put through college and I was going through a divorce and I needed money. And when I got into real estate, I didn't realize deals fall through. And I found that every time I listed a house and it sold, and the home inspection and all the problems, they'd cancel the contract and I'd have to resell it. I went straight to condos simply because I felt that once I sold them the first time, they stayed sold, unless for some reason the buyer lost their job and couldn't get a mortgage. So for me, that's why I went to condos. I didn't have to deal with everything that came up with having a home, the home inspection and all the problems that are associated with it. I also felt that each condo building was its own community. And once I got in there and they got to know me, then it was much easier to keep going on that.
Mary, I wanted to ask you, the knowledge on the Condominium Act that you told those investors you know, that once you get one sold and the money, you know, they had to bank some money. Is it just by reading the Condominium Act?
Yes, you need to be well versed in the Condominium Act because you need to take a look at all the different requirements, because some of the lenders now require that 10% of the monthly assessment has to be escrowed in for future improvements. So you have to understand what can and cannot be done with the Condominium Act. I have taken many condominium buildings, and if they're agreeable, I've done the FHA or the VA approval. I've done it straight with HUD, and doing that, it's very easy to do. And that, again, I've had management companies have me speak to condominium associations and come out and explain that. That's another thing when you list a condo, and I know we're kind of going off track, find out who the property manager is. You have to find out who the management company is. Call and introduce yourself. Stop by and introduce yourself. Bring them some candy. And you'd be surprised how when someone's thinking of selling their home and they call the management company will say, you know what, give Mary Wright a call. She's always been nice. She comes in here and, you know, she's always easy to work with. I mean, there's times they're very frustrating to work with. Don't lose your temper, because you're gonna, when the buyers have bought and the sellers have sold, it's just going to be us professionals standing up looking at each other. We don't have to like each other, but we should respect each other. So I give everybody respect, and in return, it does come back to me. Well, in closing, I'm excited that I'm going to be handling I'm on the ALC this year. I'm going to be the luxury chairperson. And as soon as we find out more information on the luxury division, because it has changed, we will be scheduling some meetings. And I want to reach out to all of you while I have you on this call to tell you how important it is to be part of our market center, to be part of our community, to join these groups, because we're all a family here. We're a family. When someone gets married and someone has a child, we rejoice. When someone loses someone close, we grieve. And especially yesterday, I'm sure you saw, we all found out Kim Johnson has stage 2 breast cancer. So please keep her in your thoughts and prayers. We're setting up a meal train, but be a part of our community, not only through training and through the coaching, but coming to committee meetings, because you're also very important. That's what makes our office so special. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks, Mary.
Thanks, Mary. This is amazing.
Thank you, Mary.
You're
That's
welcome.
great.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
now.
Mary. I learned a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I'm
same
sad.
here. I didn't say anything, but yeah, I learned a lot. Yeah, I was listening. Yeah,
Well,
thank you so much.
And also too, this doesn't end here today. I sincerely mean it. At the KW office website, I'll put my email and my phone number. If you have any questions in the future, or you need a role play partner, or there's anything else I can do for you, we are family. Just give me a call or send me a message.
I really appreciate that, Mary. Thanks so
Thanks
much.
again.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye, everyone.
Lydia,
Bye.
awesome. Thank you, Lydia. I could not have done this without you.
You're welcome, Mary.
Bye.
All right. See y'all later.